My wife is asking for my consent to spend the night with a coworker. She has offered to allow me to sleep with any woman I want in return. What should I do? We've been married for just over a year now, and overall, it's been a joyful relationship. Like any couple, we've had our minor disagreements, but nothing significant. We've never discussed the idea of an open marriage or being with others. Recently, my wife asked me if I would consider sleeping with another woman if given the chance. I told her no, as she is everything I want and more than enough for me. She rolled her eyes, clearly annoyed by my comment, which caught me off guard since I expected it to please her. She exclaimed, seriously, not with anyone? That's nonsense. I maintained my stance. Eventually, she confessed that there was someone she would consider hooking up with. After some persuasion, she revealed that there's a coworker she would be interested in. I inquired whether she had discussed it with him or if they had any sort of sexual relationship. She refused to acknowledge it, and the discussion wrapped up soon after. Feeling a bit doubtful, I decided to check her phone. In her photo gallery, I found numerous nude pictures that she had never shared with me. When I confronted her about it, she confessed that she had been sending them to a coworker and that they had been engaging in sexting. Now that it was no longer a secret, she requested my consent to meet him. She explained that they would see each other no more than 5 times, their encounters would be purely sexual without any emotional involvement, and that I would also have a free pass. I was taken aback by her proposal. She had never been particularly flirty with other guys or engaged with them in front of me before. I always thought she was shy and reserved around others. She openly confessed that she finds him incredibly attractive and realizes she may never get the chance to meet someone like him again. She noted that he has a larger physical endowment than anyone she's encountered before. Although she described his personality as terrible and acknowledged it could only be a casual encounter, she saw this as a unique experience she wanted to try, even if she wouldn't do it again. As I mentioned at the start, my only desire is to be with her, not to have an open relationship. She keeps insisting that she would feel guilty if she pursued that and I didn't take advantage of the opportunity. She's even offered to speak with some friends to see if they might be interested in me or help find someone else. I told her I wasn't sure what to say and that I would consider it. So, what should I do? Should I go along with this idea, or should I end things? We genuinely love each other, and that would make it really difficult. I know she cares for me deeply. Update 1. Last night, I had a significant conversation with my wife regarding our situation and the future of our marriage. I began by telling her that I wouldn't be taking advantage of the free pass she offered me. She reacted with frustration and seemed quite upset. I asked her why she was so bothered by my choice not to be with someone else. She responded that it seemed immature and petty, noting that many of her male friends would eagerly accept such an opportunity. She expressed that she believed I was using this situation to show that I'm superior to her and don't need other women to satisfy me. I clarified that I'm not pursuing it because I genuinely love her. I enjoy being intimate with her, and even if I didn't, I wouldn't seek it elsewhere. She argued that it feels unfair for her not to have the same opportunity, especially since I had been with many more women than she had been with men before our marriage. She felt it was only fair for her to have that chance, given my greater experiences. I asked her about the guy from work, wanting to understand how she knew so much about him and his cock. After questioning her for over 30 minutes, she confessed that she had touched him, but nothing more had happened yet. When I inquired if they had arranged to meet, she confirmed they planned to try this weekend, depending on our conversation. She mentioned that she would feel terrible about it since I'm not using my free pass, but she still didn't want to back out. I told her that I would at least like to meet the guy first. She agreed to bring him over before their meeting. Noticing that I was clearly upset, she tried to lift my spirits by suggesting that I might actually enjoy the experience and that it's just an opportunity to try something different. She mentioned that we've done some cuckold role play in the past, and this could be something I'd really appreciate. She offered to record it for me, should it turn out to be something I enjoy. I told her that was fine and acknowledged she might be right, but I'd only know for sure afterward. I clarified that if I ended up feeling upset without any arousal, I wouldn't be able to support her seeing this guy again. She said she understands. We had some amazing sex last night, and she has been particularly affectionate since she noticed I've been feeling down. This morning, I even woke up to a fully cooked breakfast and a massage. It's clear to me that she genuinely cares about my happiness. We've come to an understanding that if I don't enjoy their meeting after the first time, they will end things. If she finds it difficult to break it off with him, I'll seek counseling and potentially brace myself for the worst. Update 2. My wife finally met her coworker last weekend. I won't go into all the specifics, but they had a lot of sexual experiences together. Afterward, I discussed boundaries with my wife, and she became upset quickly, arguing that I shouldn't dictate what two consenting adults can do in the bedroom. Although I was starting to feel more accepting of her being with him, her reaction left me feeling unsettled. Later, I asked if I could join them during their next meeting. She seemed open to the idea but said she would check with her coworker. He expressed that he wasn't comfortable with my presence, so it didn't happen. Is it common not to establish boundaries in open or cuckold relationships? Update 3. This past weekend was the breaking point for me. She left on Saturday morning, seeming indifferent to my feelings. Before she departed, she insisted I take pictures of her to send to another guy. She walked out without even giving me a goodbye kiss. Initially, she said she would return that evening, but when nighttime came, she was completely missing. The following morning, she casually mentioned that she had chosen to spend the night with him without informing or consulting me first. That wasn't even the worst part. During that night, he had a friend over, and she ended up being intimate with both of them. She didn't even bother to check with me about it beforehand. When she finally returned home, she shared all of this information with me. I began to visibly show my distress, to which she responded by laughing and telling me to get over it, claiming it wasn't very masculine of me. I couldn't tolerate it any longer. It was clear that she no longer cared about me. No partner would say such things to someone they truly cared for. I was taken aback. Until recently, I hadn't noticed any signs during our marriage that she would act this way. She had always been the most loving and caring person I had ever known. It felt like a switch had flipped when she met that guy, transforming her into someone entirely different. I never realized one person could influence another so profoundly and so quickly. I'm nearly certain that she will end up in a relationship with him. She has spent several weekends with him and even talks about him in my presence. The other night, I told her that if she didn't set some boundaries, I would leave. She just laughed and replied, "Okay." Without saying anything further, I packed a few bags and booked a room at a nearby hotel. I shared the situation with my brother, and he invited me to stay with him for a bit. I ended up staying at his place for the night. That evening and the following day, she sent me several texts expressing her upset and confusion about my departure, saying that she missed me. The following day, I realized we needed to return to my house to reduce the risk of losing it. My brother accompanied me for assistance. Upon our arrival, my wife attempted to speak with me, but I wasn't in the mood to engage, so I ignored her and tried to move past. She clung to me, trying to hold me back, and my brother intervened, warning her that he would call the police if she didn't stop. Eventually, she left, and I haven't heard from her since. This situation has completely shattered me. I tried to let her pursue this to keep her happy, even though I never wanted it in the first place. I made an effort to like it for her sake. Before we got married, I never noticed any signs that she could be so manipulative and hurtful. I'm at a loss as to where this behavior came from because she used to be the most wonderful, considerate person. Now, everything about how I view life and relationships has changed. What advice do you all have for me? I'm seeking guidance on how to deal with my current wife and what to consider for future relationships when I start dating again. How should I approach our families and friends about this? What should I say to my wife? I'm really struggling to cope with everything that's happening. Update 4. I left her last week and went to stay with my brother. After discussing with him and reading various comments, I realized it would be wise to return to my house to ensure I wouldn't lose it during the divorce. The next day, I decided to go back, and my brother accompanied me. Upon arrival, my wife attempted to talk to me and grab me, but I ignored her completely and acted as if she wasn't there. She became quite aggressive, hitting my chest. Eventually, I pushed her away. My brother warned her that he would call the police if she didn't leave me alone. After that, she finally departed, and I didn't hear from her for the rest of the night. The following day, I received a picture of her with a coworker, a typical selfie with no accompanying message. I showed it to my brother, and he remarked that she must be sick in the head for doing that. I finally had an initial meeting and consultation with a divorce attorney, and it went well. He provided me with essential information to prepare for the divorce, mentioning that the pictures and videos I have of them could be useful evidence. The only concern is that she might claim I agreed to everything, despite the manipulation involved. Afterwards, my brother and I went to my parents' house to discuss what's been happening. They were taken aback and nearly didn't believe it at first. My brother supported me by confirming the truth of what I said. They expressed a desire to speak with her, but I advised against it. The next step was informing her parents. I struggled with this decision for a while because I wasn't sure if it was my place. Eventually, I concluded that it was the best course of action. I realized that if I didn't tell them first, she would likely share terrible lies about me. I arranged a time to meet them at their home and went alone. After some small talk, I finally mustered the courage to explain what was happening. Their reactions were astounding. They looked utterly disgusted. They had never witnessed this side of their daughter. I was surprised that they didn't blame me for any of it. They recognized that I loved her and wanted to do everything possible to make her happy. Before I left, they even hugged me, and we were all in tears. They understood that divorce was the last thing I wanted, but they acknowledged that I had to go through with it at this point. This weekend, I spent most of my time discussing matters with my attorney and hanging out with my brother at home. On Saturday night, I received a text from my wife saying she was coming over. I replied that she wasn't welcome at that moment, but she didn't listen and showed up about 20 minutes later. At that point, I felt I had no choice but to talk to her. She began by saying that she had spoken to her parents, who were very upset with her and had mentioned the possibility of us getting a divorce. I was hoping her parents wouldn't mention anything about the divorce since I hadn't even told her yet, and I hadn't planned on doing so in person. I intended to have everything communicated through my lawyer. She claimed that my actions were childish and said I must not be a real man for speaking to her parents before discussing it with her. I explained that I felt uncomfortable talking to her because she had manipulated me so much, and I reached out to her parents first to prevent her from lying to them and placing all the blame on me. She kept asking if it was true that I was filing for a divorce, and I confirmed that I was. After that, she broke down in tears and didn't say much for about 15 minutes. She eventually stopped crying and began asking me why I was doing this and why I hadn't given her a warning. I explained that she had been incredibly manipulative throughout this process and had made me feel invisible. I felt so humiliated by her and her coworker. She promised she would change if I took her back, but I told her that I couldn't do that. After that, she left. The next morning, I woke up to numerous texts and missed calls from her. Most of them were lengthy messages and voicemails where she apologized and expressed her love for me. Listening to them was painful because it reminded me of our past and how much I once loved her. I was crying uncontrollably at that moment, and it took all my strength not to reply to her. I kept reminding myself of everything she had done to me over the past few weeks. Ever since she left that night, I've received numerous texts from her friends urging me to take her back. They were angry and criticized me for reaching out to her parents, saying that they're now the only support she has. This whole situation has been so overwhelming. I can't believe how intense my emotions have been in the last few days. It's surprising to see that even her parents are supporting me. I do feel guilty for informing them first and pushing them against her, but I'm relieved that they're on my side. My friends keep attacking me and sending threats. I haven't heard from my wife since she sent those lengthy texts and messages. I suspect she might be staying with her coworker or friends since her parents are currently not on her side. am surprised by my own ability to stand firm against her, and I hope to maintain that strength. This past weekend was significant for me. It demonstrated that I have the resilience to confront her and walk away. Thank you all for your concern and the supportive messages. I will make an effort to keep everyone informed about any major developments.